Hey everybody, so I thought today might be kind of cool to just chat a little bit about mastering some basic chords on the bass. Now, you might think this is sort of an indulgent thing to do, but I'm not often called to play them on a gig, or in the past when I've been playing, even like in trio settings, it's very occasional. But one of the things that's really cool is if you're practicing and you don't have immediate access to a piano or a keyboard of some sort, to just be able to play basic voicings of, major sevens, minor sevens, dominant 7 chords, minor 7 flat 5, and so on, augmented chords, diminished chords. And if you know how to play some basic voicings of chords, you can set those up on a looper pedal, which is what I often do just to practice stuff if I don't have a keyboard to hand. If we look at this, we could start with some really basic things that some of you might know already, but if some of you don't, I'm going to start kind of at the beginning. So a really simple thing, a dyad, 2 intervals played simultaneously. You could work on tenths, so that a 10th interval is the root and then the third of whichever chord you're working on placed up an octave. So if we were playing, for instance, a G major 10th, we'd play a G and then the B above that, but not just a third above, a major third, but an octave above that, so you get this sound. So I'm playing a G and the B, and that gives us a really nice sound. You probably recognize that also, that idea. Lou Reed, Walk on the Wild Side, has actually 2 contrary motion basses moving. I think it's an upright bass and an electric, and that uses tenths like that, major tenths. A lot of different tunes. Dune Tune, Level 42, that Mark King wrote that. That has some use of tenths in there, some Stanley Clarke stuff like on School Days. Uses these things, double stops as they're often called as well. So these can be really kind of nice. They fill in the sound a bit. Another famous example, of course, is Watermelon Man, the second version, the electric version with the Headhunters, Herbie Hancock. You can either play that just as a straight 10th, or we could add the 7th and turn those into dominant, ascending dominant chords like this. A little thicker sounding, but now you get the sound of a dominant 7, and I'll show you how to do that too. So before we move on to that though, let me also show you a minor 10th. So the minor 10th is the root and then the minor third of your chord that you're working on, or your tonality, but you place that third up an octave as well. So if I played, remember the G major 10th was this, G and B. Now if I want to play the minor, I'll change that B to a B flat. Go back to major. Like that. Now, what I'm doing as far as plucking, just to make it really clear, I'm using kind of like a pincer movement here, my thumb and my first finger to play these, right? So I get this sound. And I'm actually muting with the side of my palm a little bit here. You can let it ring, like that, or you can slightly mute it, listen. Which can be a nice effect too. And then minor. So there's your tenths, right? Now, they work quite well even right on the bottom register of the bass down here. It still sounds quite nice because you're not thickening up the sound too much. Now, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to add the 7th to the chord. It's going to be the minor 7th or flat 7. So let's do this, let's stay with G, all right? So if I was going to play a G dominant 7, the notes I have to have in there are the major third and the flat 7. They form that tritone, the flat 5 interval between the 3rd and the 7th, right? So between B and F, right? It's a flat 5 or tritone interval, right? So what I want to do here is also add the G. So I'm going to have the root, the 3rd, and the 7th. But here's a little tip for you. You can leave out the 5th in these chords if it's not doing anything, if it's not a flat 5 or a sharp 5, if it's not really adding to the quality of the chord. It's a really disposable voicing, especially for bass players if you're dealing with like a 4-string. And I really wanted to demo this on, a 4-string jazz type bass, something, very basic, so that you can kind of see we can get some usable voicings here to work with. And you don't have to be playing 5 or 6-string. I used to play 6-string bass, but a lot of this stuff, you can just do on a 4-string very effectively. And then of course you can expand it with a 5 or a 6. So What a lot of people do when they play a seventh chord, i.e. the chord with the seventh in now as well, is they play what we call a closed voicing, where the third is below the seventh in the chord voicing. I'll give you an example. It's a really common one. So I'll play it down here for ease of, you'll be able to see it really clearly. So here's our G on the 10th fret. And if I play G, B, F, right? Listen to this. I don't love this sound. So we get... It's okay. It's a little muddy, right? To me, it would sound better if we take the third, the major third, the B, and place it an octave higher. Listen to this. I like that much more. So what I did was I'm playing the root, the G, the minor or flat 7, the F here, G, F. So that's a seventh interval, so minor seventh jump. And then the third I'm playing as the 10th, the major 10th, an octave higher than that closed voicing third, right? This, hear how that's clearer to me than, it's a bit thick that, especially as we're playing it on a bass guitar, right? So, much more kind of functional, isn't it? So, here's our kind of basic tip for you. I think you're going to find this really useful. When you're playing seventh chord voicings, whether it's a minor 7, major 7, or this dominant 7, right? If you put the third on top, it's going to be clearer, and you can miss out the fifth. So I'll show you this now. We'll do it all on a G root to keep it kind of fairly easy, okay? So I showed you the G dominant 7. We played root, the minor or flat 7, and then the third on top, right? If you like this, I did a full, almost hour-long video on this with over, I think it was over 40 different examples of voicings for chords for the bass guitar. And it's available on my website, and it's Practical Chords for Bass, Volume 1, all right? So if you guys are interested, I'll put a screenshot up for you, but this is it on my site, Buy Videos and Music, Practical Chords for Bass. And what I did with this was, there's also like 4 pages of PDF with the fingering, you know, like gives you a fingerboard chart. You don't need to read music for this. So it's like a fingerboard chart, shows you all the fingerings for these different voicings. And it's something that, you know, you may even have a spot in a gig that you're doing where you might be playing with a guitar player and a percussionist or drummer just as a trio, and if the guitar player is soloing, it might be a nice variation to go just from playing bass to actually comping for that soloist. Because you can actually get away with, you know, a lot of nice things. You can set up... See, you can do quite a lot, even with just a 4-string and even with tenths. You see, there's a lot of things you can do with this, so don't kind of be afraid to experiment. Let's do a minor 7 now. So now we're going to have root, the minor 7th, and sure enough, the minor 3rd on top like this. Listen. Works great, right? Listen to a regular closed voicing of root, minor 3rd, and minor 7. It's not terrible, but it's a little thick, whereas I think that's much better. Now, let's look at major 7. So with the major 7, again, we can miss out the 5th, and we're going to play root, major 7, and major 3rd on top. So fingering wise, it's going to be like this. Root, the G, all right? F sharp here, the major 7, right? And then the major 3rd on top. If I was to play this closed, it's not horrible, but again, a little thick sounding, okay? So we have dominant, G, F, B, root, minor or flat 7, and the major 3rd on top. Minor 7, root, minor 7, minor 3rd. Then we go to the major 7, root, major 7, and that major 3rd on top. Okay, so we have major 7, minor, dominant. One more time. Major 7, root, major 7, 3rd on top. Minor, root, minor 7, minor 3rd on top. dominant, root, minor 7, major 3rd on top. And there's one more I want to show you of these basic voicings. So the minor 7 flat 5. You've noticed these are all 7th chords that you can find in major harmony. So they should dovetail in quite nicely with practicing modes as well from the major scale as well. So it'd be quite easy to pair these together as a practice thing in a routine. So for the minor 7 flat 5, we do want to include the flat 5 now, because it really is an important part of the sound of that chord, isn't it? So if you do want to do that and you want to play root, and we're still going to put the 3rd on the top, root, flat 5, minor 7, and minor 3rd on top, all right? So it's almost like a minor 7, but we're adding the flat 5. So watch this. Now the fingering's a little harder. I hope you can see this clearly. I think you can. So I'm going to play this like this. Root, the G, flat 5, the D flat, that's with my pinky or 4th finger, right? Then the minor 7 with my 2nd, and the minor 3rd or minor 10th on top with my 3rd. So fingering wise, 1, 4, 2, 3 in ascending pitch order, all right? Like this. Now, because again it's on a bass and I only can play this complete voicing here, I can't play it an octave higher, it is starting to get a little thick and muddy. So this is where sometimes, even though all 4 voices in that are quite important, I'll still miss one out for clarity. Now, I could do this and just literally play G, D flat, and the minor 3rd B flat on top. So I've got root, flat 5, and the B flat. It's really like an inversion of a G diminished triad, G, B flat, D flat, which you'd find on the 7th step of a major scale, for example, right? So if I do this, listen. It's not quite as thick as, and I still think you get the quality enough of the chord to get a sense of the sound of it, all right? So that's a little tip. Sometimes you do have to miss out a voice to get ultimate clarity, and you have to use your judgment what sounds best. And here's one other one for you on this. I don't want to overload you with this, but this is kind of a cool one. I like this one myself. So instead of playing the flat 5 here, I decided to push that note, because it's pretty important, an octave higher, right? So I'm going to drop the 3rd out of this. I'm not even going to bother with it, even though it's an important voice in the chord, but we want to work with what we're given here with this bass guitar, right, for clarity. So I'm going to play root, minor or flat 7, and flat 5 on top. Check it out. Now that I like a lot. Gives me the sound of that chord, that minor 7 flat 5, and my ear fills in the blank. And this is really kind of a cool thing. You'll find when you play certain voicings on the bass that you might decide to miss out the 3rd sometimes. You go, what can I add instead? And your ear will fill that in. I'll give you another example. Listen to this chord. Check this out. That's a bit of a change from our minor 7 flat 5. But so this is an E major 9, but no 3rd. I've got the root, the major 7, and the 9, and then a low E dropped in as well, and I've got no major 3rd in there. But to me, it very much sounds like it's going to be major. My ear just fills that in for me. See what I mean? We don't hear that as a minor major 7. If I play a minor 3rd against that after playing this, listen, it'll sound really bad. And I play, that doesn't sound right, that G, does it? So your ear fills that in. So there's going to be certain times you play on the bass and you'll want to get a really nice voicing, something kind of open sounding, and you'll have to sacrifice one of the other voicings in the chord. So experiment with that, because it's really fun to do, and you'll realize, oh, you know, if I miss this out, I still get the sound of it, but now I have a little more color, because now I have the F sharp, the 9. And I love having the low E in there as well, so I'm doubling the root of the chord. But again, this is a bass-specific voicing. I think it's really nice. It's really great to see that we've hit over 10,000 subscribers to the channel. That's very great, so thanks to everybody. You can do the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is below the video. You can go direct to my website, rufusphilpot.com. Contact me if you want to do online studying with me directly via Skype. You can also pick up some of the videos. My practical chords for bass video is there. Also comes, like I said, with a PDF which gives you an index on the video as to where you can find all the examples, and there's a ton of chord voicings in here. We start off basic like we did today a little bit, then we get into obviously the triads and sixth chords, major 7, sharp 11, major 7, sharp 11 with stacked fourth voicing, minor 7, add 9, major 7, sharp 5, dominants with different variations like sharp 5, flat 9, sharp 9s, all these different things. You'll really get a lot out of that if you're interested. Go by the website, pick that up, and okay, I'll see you on the next one.